Copenhagen, Denmark. Topping the 2025 Global Livability Index wasn't an accident. Copenhagen built its way there, quite literally. Over 240 miles of dedicated bike lanes crisscross the city, carrying 62% of residents on their daily commutes because walking was apparently too slow for Danish sensibilities. Human-scale design dictates everything here, from public transit to pedestrian zones, all engineered to prioritize people over vehicles. The fully automated metro runs 24/7, serving 1.3 million people in the greater metro area without requiring a single human operator. Environmental sustainability carries legal weight rather than serving as hollow rhetoric. Carbon neutrality targets for 2025 drive integration of green roofs, renewable energy systems, and district heating that recycles waste heat. Within 15 minutes on foot or bike, residents access most amenities they need, making the 15-minute city concept reality rather than aspiration. Industrial harbors transformed into swimmable public spaces along the waterfront, a conversion that seemed unnecessarily ambitious but delivers undeniable results. While the infrastructure doesn't just support sustainable living, it practically mandates it through thoughtful design. Vienna, Austria. After years dominating the Global Livability Index, Vienna surrendered its crown to Copenhagen in 2025, a defeat that must sting for such a historically triumphant city. What Vienna does maintain is its reputation as the gold standard for balancing historic preservation with contemporary urban needs across its 1.9 million person population. The U-Bahn, trams, and buses transport 2.6 million passengers daily while achieving 95% punctuality because anything less would offend Viennese sensibilities. Social housing programs pioneered in the 1920s now house roughly 60% of residents, proving affordability doesn't require sacrificing quality or aesthetics. The Urban Development Plan, Step 2025, prioritizes mixed-use neighborhoods, green corridors, and systematic pedestrianization to eliminate car dependency block by block. Apparently, regular amounts of nature proved insufficient. Vienna maintains over 2,000 parks, covering nearly half the city's total area. District heating, powered by waste incineration, and renewable energy targets push toward carbon neutrality by 2040. Essential services sit within a 15-minute walk or bike ride from most residential areas, cementing Vienna's exceptional walkability rankings. The Austrian capital demonstrates that century-old infrastructure can adapt to 21st-century sustainability demands. Zurich, Switzerland. Meticulous urban planning borders on obsessive in Zurich, which explains its consistent top-tier rankings in global livability indices. Zurich's transportation system doesn't just integrate trams, buses, trains, and boats. It tracks them in real time across a single network serving 1.5 million metro residents, because Swiss punctuality demands nothing less. Walkability and cycling receive infrastructural priority through dedicated bike lanes and pedestrian zones threading throughout the city center. And hydropower generates most electricity, while solar panels and district heating utilizing waste heat or carbon emissions. Densification drives the growth management strategy instead of sprawl, though this approach ignites ongoing debates about maintaining housing affordability. Over 40% green coverage blankets the city through parks, forests, and the pristine Lake Zurich waterfront, providing abundant public space. Waste management achieves recycling rates exceeding 50% with characteristic Swiss precision. Open data platforms enable residents to participate in urban planning decisions, which sounds admirably democratic until you experience endless community meetings debating bike lane placement. Zurich proves that obsessive attention to detail produces genuinely livable cities. Singapore. Fitting nearly 6 million people onto 284 square miles sounds like a logistical nightmare, yet Singapore makes it work through sheer planning prowess. The Urban Redevelopment Authority coordinates land use, housing, transportation, and infrastructure through integrated master plans spanning 10 to 15-year cycles. Draft Master Plan 2025 emphasizes sustainable growth, urban resilience, and decentralized business hubs to relieve pressure on the central business district. The mass rapid transit moves over 3 million passengers daily with ruthless efficiency, complemented by extensive bus networks covering areas beyond MRT reach. Electronic road pricing pioneered congestion pricing in the 1970s, discouraging car ownership and reducing traffic through economic incentives. Green corridors, rooftop gardens, and urban forests weave through the concrete landscape, earning the Garden City nickname through deliberate environmental planning. Covered walkways and pedestrian-friendly designs account for tropical heat and rain, making walkability viable despite challenging climate conditions. Housing Development Board flats house 80% of residents, blending affordability with modern amenities through government-led development. Long-term vision meets adaptive strategies in Singapore's approach, though critics note the efficiency often requires trading individual freedoms for collective benefits. Tokyo, Japan. The world's most populous urban agglomeration, 43 million in the greater metro, 14 million in the city proper, somehow functions despite numbers that suggest inevitable chaos. Transportation infrastructure operates at legendary scale, with Tokyo Metro and private rail lines moving over 40 million passengers daily through networks so complex that smartphone navigation apps became necessities rather than conveniences. Mixed-use development and high-density construction maximize severely limited space while maintaining livability standards. Train stations anchor neighborhood design, placing shops, restaurants, and services within minutes on foot and cementing Tokyo's exceptional walkability rankings. Earthquake-resistant building codes and infrastructure emerged from devastating historical lessons, transforming an active fault line location into one of the world's safest megacities. Extensive green spaces, rooftop gardens, and ambitious carbon reduction targets drive environmental initiatives across the metropolis. Public transit achieves 99% on-time performance, a punctuality rate that frankly unsettles visitors accustomed to delays. Historic district preservation balances futuristic development, creating distinct neighborhood identities throughout the massive urban sprawl. Waste management and recycling systems efficiently handle enormous volumes generated by millions of residents with minimal visible impact. Paris, France. Packing 2.1 million residents into just 40 square miles creates one of Europe's densest urban cores, which might explain the perpetually irritated Parisians. Baron Haussmann's 19th century redesign still dictates urban form through iconic wide boulevards, uniform building heights, and the organized arrondissement system. The metro system ranks among the world's oldest and most extensive, moving over 4 million passengers daily through 16 lines and 300 stations, though summer passengers suffer the design oversight of absent air conditioning. Mayor Anne Hidalgo pioneered the 15-minute city concept, restructuring neighborhoods so essential services sit within a quarter-hour walk or bike ride. Aggressive car restrictions, 621 miles of expanded bike lanes, and successfully making designated sections of the River Seine swimmable again demonstrate serious environmental commitments. Pedestrian-friendly streets and public squares dominate central Paris, delivering exceptional walkability scores. Over 400 parks and gardens squeeze into limited space, supplemented by former Seine highways transformed into pedestrian promenades. Public housing accounts for roughly 20% of residences, though affordability challenges persist in one of Europe's priciest cities. Haussmann's vision endures, adapted for contemporary sustainability demands. London, United Kingdom. The world's oldest metro system anchors London's transport infrastructure, though calling the underground stretches generosity given its frequent surface running. 11 lines and 272 stations carry over 5 million passengers daily across a metropolitan area, housing 14 million people. Strict planning regulations and designated conservation areas balance historic preservation with modern development, protecting architectural heritage while accommodating growth. Ultra-low emission zones charge high-polluting vehicles entering central areas, simultaneously reducing air pollution and generating public transit improvement revenue. Over 8,500 buses covering 700 routes complement the tube, providing comprehensive coverage where rail doesn't reach. Walkability varies dramatically by borough. Central areas offer pedestrian-friendly environments, while outer zones remain car-dependent. Green spaces comprise roughly 47% of total area, including 8 royal parks and numerous smaller gardens providing environmental relief within dense urban fabric. Aging infrastructure requires constant maintenance and upgrades, straining budgets and patience. Transit-oriented design and mixed-use development increasingly shape new projects, though housing affordability remains critical with prices ranking among the world's highest. London demonstrates both the possibilities and challenges of adapting centuries-old cities to contemporary needs. Berlin, Germany. Sprawling across 344 square miles with just 3.7 million residents, makes Berlin one of Europe's least dense major capitals. Berliners actually have room to breathe, unlike their Parisian counterparts. Tumultuous history-shaped urban planning, with divided east and west creating distinct architectural and infrastructural legacies that planners continue integrating decades after reunification. U-Bahn, S-Bahn, trams, and buses operate with German efficiency through integrated ticketing, working across all modes, moving millions daily. Mixed-use neighborhoods blend residential, commercial, and cultural spaces, reducing commute times while fostering local community connections. Over 621 miles of bike lanes make Berlin among Europe's most bike-friendly cities, though winter conditions test even dedicated cyclists' commitment. Carbon neutrality goals, renewable energy integration, and extensive green corridors connecting parks drive environmental initiatives. Over 2,500 public parks and green spaces include the massive Tiergarten and former Tempelhof Airport converted to public use. Affordability historically distinguished Berlin from other European capitals, though rapid gentrification drives housing costs steadily upward. Central districts score highly for walkability, where pedestrian zones and public squares dominate. Berlin's distinct character emerges from embracing, rather than erasing, its complicated past. Amsterdam, Netherlands. Building a city mostly below sea level seems unnecessarily risky. Yet Amsterdam's 933,000 residents and 2.4 million metro inhabitants make it work through characteristic Dutch water management. Iconic canals dating to the 17th century remain functional UNESCO World Heritage Sites, serving transportation, drainage, and aesthetic purposes simultaneously. World-renowned cycling infrastructure includes over 310 miles of dedicated paths, serving approximately 880,000 bikes. More bicycles than residents, creating a two-wheeled traffic system dominating car usage. GVB-operated trams, buses, and metro lines integrate efficiently, though most locals choose cycling regardless of weather conditions. Compact, high-density development maximizes limited space while maintaining livability through human-scale architecture and mixed-use neighborhoods. Carbon neutrality goals for 2050 and extensive renewable energy investments drive sustainability planning. Historic center walkability ranks exceptionally high, with narrow streets and pedestrian zones prioritizing foot traffic over vehicles. Elaborate canal, dike, and pumping station systems manage water infrastructure with Dutch precision, preventing flooding through centuries-refined engineering. Creative housing solutions include floating homes and adaptive reuse of historic buildings, though affordability challenges persist as demand outpaces supply. Amsterdam proves water doesn't have to be an obstacle, it can be infrastructure. Stockholm, Sweden. Distributing 980,000 city residents and 2.2 million metro inhabitants across 14 islands connected by 57 bridges suggests building on solid ground was too conventional for Swedish planners. Waterfront accessibility weaves throughout urban planning, with legally protected shoreline public access and extensive waterside walkway networks. Tunnelbana metro lines, commuter trains, buses, trams, and ferries combine into SL, Managed Comprehensive Transit, moving over 800,000 passengers daily. Congestion pricing, pioneered in 2006, reduced traffic by 20% while generating revenue funding public transit expansions. Carbon neutrality targets for 2040 drive planning policies emphasizing renewable energy, district heating, and green infrastructure investments. Over 1,000 parks and nature reserves covering roughly 40% of total area provide residents abundant outdoor recreation without leaving urban boundaries. Central districts achieve high walkability through pedestrian-friendly streets and public squares, though outer suburbs remain more car-dependent. Transit-oriented design and mixed-use development shape new construction, creating dense neighborhoods around metro stations. Rental apartments dominate housing policy over ownership, though severe shortages drive up costs and create years-long queues for rental contracts. Stockholm demonstrates that geographic challenges become opportunities with creative planning. Subscribe to learn about more urban planning success stories or disasters.